doing, everybody? Whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world, this is your Wednesday wrap-up. And, of course, I'm here with my man, Herb. How's it going, buddy?
Man, it's a beautiful morning. I mean, except for all the rain and thunder and lightning, it's a beautiful morning.
Well, at least the coffee's good, I guess.
Yeah. That's all we got today. That's all we got.
That's right. That's right. So, it's been a couple of weeks since we did the wrap-up. And, we just got done with the third week of the NFL. So this will be a little bit of an NFL heavy show. And I think it mostly is because of this right here. Like, what is happening in the NFL right now? Like a couple of these make sense, right? Like KC makes sense. The Bills make sense.
The Bills only you know what I mean? It's like if you had said one of these, I would have put all my money on KC, right? If you had said pick a second team, I guess on this list I picked the Bills.
Right.
But it's like they must have really came out of the gate fire. And that's, without looking at schedules and stuff like that first.
They've been balling out.
Yeah.
And they looked really good on defense, which is funny because it was the unit that took the biggest step back, at least on the roster. That it looked like that's kind of how it was going to go.
Right.
And that defense has been lights out. And the offense hasn't missed a beat without Diggs. That part's not as big of a surprise.
Or Gabe Davis, though, just to be fair, because those were his top two targets. Not that I'm a Gabe Davis fan, but they had the biggest targets.
Like, if you remember the end of last year, he just stopped using Diggs. Like, he was on the field. He was just like, I'm just not going to throw you the ball anymore. So
he knew he was leaving.
Right? Like, it's like they were hoping for him to get out of the building.
Right.
So the offense is less of a surprise, but the defense, I'm impressed with the way they've been playing over the first 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Then we get into some questionable teams here. Now, the Seahawks, I thought, would be 2-1 at this point, and they're 3-0 because Tua goes down, right? Because otherwise, I think a Tua-led Dolphins team probably exposes some weak spots in that Seattle defense, and that game probably isn't the lopsided affair that it was.
Yeah.
These other two teams.
Wait, real quick, as a Seahawks fan, were you disappointed just because that game just kind of it just didn't feel like anything, And this is an outside fan watching the Seahawks and the Dolphins.
It was
just kind of like,
it was a scrimmage, is what that was. It was like there were elements of it that you wanted to see, right? Like you wanted to see some timing continue to grow. You were hoping to see a little bit better run defense, which we did, but was it really because you don't have a capable quarterback? Skylar Thompson's in there and then he gets hurt and you're down to Tim Boyle. And there's nobody running that offense effectively. So were they better in the middle and against the run game, or was it just the offense was so inept that, everybody would have looked good? So I don't know that we got any answers to the questions that we had from the first 2 weeks. But the first two games, Seattle should have won. So, they should have been 2-1 going into this because the hardest part of the schedule is still yet to hit. Obviously, their first real test is going to be on Monday night against the Lions. But, these other two teams, the Vikings, you kind of knew was going to have a decent defense and, better quarterback play with Darnold than what they had. So you thought they would be, competitive, not 3-0, but competitive.
That was our exact words, was they'll scare some teams with what they got going on. No, I still think they'll probably end up last in division, but they'll put us scares. I remember having that argument with a couple people like, no, Darnold will figure out a way to get it to Justin Jefferson. That's what you do on a Minnesota team, after time. Just look for him and he will make you look loads better than you've ever looked. So
and they have multiple weapons. In fact, that team's about to get better because Hawkinson comes back here in 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
So that's a team that is punching above its weight class right now.
Yeah.
Then there's the Steelers that have no right to be on this list.
No. And I'm rooting for the Steelers, but how you continue to win without scoring touchdowns or getting, the bare minimum amount of touchdowns.
Yeah, just not scoring points. It's not even just touchdowns. I mean, they're not even getting in field goal range half the time. I mean, they're winning these games with like 13 points. You're like, I mean, that's not a thing in the NFL. It's a testament to that defense. So
yes, you've given up 26 points so far this year, but your high water mark is 20 against the Chargers. Like,
exactly.
You're one busted coverage away from like losing, every game. If anybody on there is not focused, guy stops to tie his shoelaces and the receiver runs by him or something or whatever, like that's it for you. I don't know how sustainable it is, but
Raj in full hater mode.
Yes. At least he's consistent. At least he's consistent.
I expect him to be in full hater mode anyway, because that team's going through it at this point.
Man, somebody asked us last night on the show, like, how is Raj coping with the Dolphins? I said, we just talk Alabama football these days.
Yeah,
we don't talk anything about the Dolphins right now. Like, what are you supposed to say?
Don't exist.
Yes. Like, what are you supposed to say? It's like, here was a team. We wonder why they paid him so much money. And then it's like, he's the only person they have that makes that team go. And it's like everyone's value, this is obviously fantasy football influenced, but Tyreek Hill has like almost no value at this point. Waddle is like a nothing for you. These are just top people. They're on the and I think Hill is like on the you can't drop list. And not that you ever would, you'd hope something would happen. But It's funny because he's an undroppable. They're like, he's a great player. Yeah, but he's, without anybody to get him the ball, he's just, paperweight sitting out there. So
no question. No question.
So yeah, we don't. But back to your original, it's I would have only said KC on this list. Man, that would not have shocked me. Everything else is just okay.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest surprise to me though, is definitely the Steelers. Like KC makes sense, but the surprise is the Steelers. I mean, you have completely incompetent quarterback play. Last year, you come into this year and you're like, okay, you got these two guys that should get better. And then it hasn't. so for them to be 3-0 is crazy.
Oh, look, I can make it worse. I can tell you, hey, the three scores that they have, 18 points, 13 points, 20 points before you would have gone, oh, I guess they're 0-3, right?
Yeah, no question. No question. Yeah, no, none of it made sense. The thing that I didn't get about the Dolphins, since, we were talking about that anyway, is you're giving to all this money, right? He's had one healthy season. And soon as they gave him that money, I was like, man, they better find a really good backup.
Thank you.
And obviously they didn't. And then exactly what I was worried would probably happen happens week one. You're just like, well, I mean, who's shocked at this? Yeah. Like, he had one good year. Like, he's had one healthy year, I should say. And so, I mean, the fact that they weren't prepping for that. Now, granted, I know they have most of their money tied up in other players and everything. But you had to have somebody better than Skylar Thompson.
Yes.
Right? I mean, Tyler Huntley coming in is actually probably going to help them out because he did play well with the Ravens. I mean, he's not the Pro Bowler that his stat sheet says.
You like that when I posted that? That's former Pro. I just thought it was hilarious because he made the Pro Bowl because everyone in front of him got hurt because he wasn't even starting. I guess Lamar had got hurt, and then a couple other people got hurt, but he was the second string that year. He didn't even start all year. When he
played 6 games.
Yeah.
Like if you hit the Pro Bowl playing 6 games, that is wild.
Yes. That's like, look, we just got nothing else. So it will at least be interesting to see him in a kind of more pass-oriented offense than the run-oriented offense. Like, I don't know that we've seen the best from him, just because of where he played for where he's going to. But to your original point, you had to have some kind of backup. If you got to break the bank a little bit to get a veteran arm in there or somebody, you have your whole team is predicated on how your offense plays. You have all your weapons are on your offense. there's just no way that you can go, all right, yeah, we saw enough from Skylar Thompson last year to be the backup this year. No.
No, you didn't. Well, and the thing that's funny is they could have went and got a guy like a Mac Jones, or they could have made a play for a guy like Andy Dalton, or all these guys that would have been really cheap.
Yeah,
it's not like you had to go spend a crazy amount of money to get these guys. The fact that they went and grabbed Skylar Thompson instead of making a play to go get, see if they could get Carson Wentz.
Yeah. I would have loved Mac Jones just because of the way we saw him in Alabama. He is a pure timing, I know where the guy is supposed to be kind of person, So, and then the symmetry in him having to replace Tua again, So, it would have been perfect to me. So
I didn't even think about that part, but yeah.
I mean, this is exactly how it happened the last time he made his debut. So. Right, Rod. You just need somebody to distribute the ball. So somebody like Mac who's like, all right, I know where this guy's supposed to be. I know to get out. Yeah, it would have been perfect. You don't have to break the bank and get a great guy, but get a decent guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And there was plenty of those.
Yeah.
Like there were plenty of guys that they could have went and got that, can stand in the pocket and deliver to the 3 race cars you have at receiver. I mean, the offensive line is good enough to be able to, distribute the ball. That team is built in a way that they got to win track meets. But if you're going to win track meets, you got to be able to get the ball to people. And Skylar Thompson's not that dude. Right. Tim Boyle, obviously not that dude, starting behind Skylar Thompson. So, I mean, if you're a Dolphins fan, you got to be hoping Huntley has another Pro Bowl year. I am curious, how this whole Tua thing shakes out, though. Obviously you didn't want him to get hurt. You always hate seeing stuff like that, but it clearly this IR treatment has more to do with giving the organization and Tua time to decide what it is they want to do. Being as you traveled with the team to the Northwest. And if you have a concussion, they don't let you on an airplane. So clearly he wasn't still suffering from concussion symptoms.
Right.
And so then the IR situation really looks like, okay, we need to figure out what it is we're doing moving forward from his end, from the team's end, and probably from the NFL side. Right. Yeah. Like I would imagine they're probably, if he does come back, they're probably going to mandate that he wears the Guardian cap. Not that it would have mattered in this instance, because mostly it was the way that his head got shoved out of the way, then, direct contact with the crown of the helmet or anything like that.
Yeah. That wasn't even really a hit that knocked him out. That's what kind of scares me is
exactly.
He was the one initiated everything. I mean, you can't even say Damar Hamlin hit him. It was Damar Hamlin just happened to be there. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it didn't seem like some great, and obviously a person doesn't play football. Half these plays don't look, that doesn't look like that bad. Which always, by the way, just on the side, when the announcer goes, the hit didn't look that bad. I'm like, yeah, from here, it didn't look bad at all. But I'm sure on the field, it felt different. The Guardian caps, I'm not even sure if they'll help him enough, especially after 3. So
I don't think they help him at all.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have helped on this one, because he did exactly what every coach tells you not to do, is he dropped his head to initiate contact.
Right.
And, as soon as that contact happened, the first thing I said was, best case scenario, he has a stinger and is done for the day.
Right.
Because if you drop your head, like that's how you get hurt. That's how dudes get paralyzed. So, every coach I've ever had is always like eyes up, heads up, right? You're protecting your neck.
Right.
And, obviously that is not, not what he did. Not that he probably takes a lot of reps at how to initiate contact, but the other part of it that was so ridiculous is he had already got the first. Just slide.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what you're trying for another yard for, because you'd already picked up the first down. You're already 2 yards past it. Yeah. Like you just drop and slide, live to play another day.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't make any sense.
No.
not that I was going to do a Dolphins segment so much, but I mean, it was just, there was so much weird on that play. And then, of course, the ultimate irony that DeMar Hamlin is the one that knocks him out of the game. So, but
yeah, no, and you're right, and that's kind of like to go to Rogers' point there. He does, but we saw it at Bama when he was hurt. The last play that he played at Bama was we're already up big. It's right before the half. Begs coach to go in one more time. Has plenty of protection. You're already a guy who's been banged up. Throw the ball away. No, instead of throwing the ball away, I'm going to scramble in a meaningless game. I get, dragged down from behind. There goes my hip. There goes my season. It's like if you are having to beg the coach just to go back in the game, you protect yourself. Okay. Line gives you 3, 4, 5 seconds. You toss the ball away, right? Or you get out and slide or so, whatever. Just the extra yards at that point. What's up, Title? That's our boy, Title Towel. Get Slipaz with the towels. What's up, man?
Right on.
It's just like, and that's one of Rogers' biggest frustrations. And this isn't like off of this hit. This has been over the past years. He's been saying the exact same thing. He just doesn't. And all the rules protect quarterbacks. There's a million things you can do to everyone else on the field except a quarterback. You know what I mean? Like all the rules are there for you to protect yourself.
No, he goes out of his way to make it so that he can get beat up. Yeah. Like it's actually kind of crazy. Like you watch him play and you're just like, man, like you are actively trying to end your career.
Yeah.
So hopefully, hopefully obviously he's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's something that whether you're a Dolphins fan or not, you're going to be watching this pretty closely to see what it is happens over there. Because if he can't return, I mean, are you drafting somebody? I mean, because you're probably going to be bad enough you can.
Yeah. Which also even begs the question, even if they say he can come back by week, 8 or 9, if this thing just completely falls off the rails with the guys they got there, would it even be, are you really trying to risk it to come back for something that's gone? And our point has always been like, it might be time to retire anyway, but
no,
I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on. And yeah, are you going to draft somebody that's you're going to get a rookie for a team that's like our offense is ready to win now? So there's a lot.
Well, and what would be really interesting, is as soon as you start looking at the financial side, right? So like if he decides to retire on his own, then none of that guaranteed money goes his way. Now, right. I would imagine that they do some sort of injury settlement. Like I don't think the Dolphins would do him, dirty that way. Like I'm sure they'd give him some of that contract. Like, hey, sorry about your luck, whatever. If he's medically required to retire, then he gets all of the money.
Right.
And even though the team had an insurance policy of, I believe it was $45 million, that doesn't help their cap situation.
Right.
So their cap is still destroyed. So you almost have to draft somebody because you can't pay anybody.
Right.
So, out of those two scenarios, it becomes kind of a weird deal. And then when you're looking at it from the medical end, you won't know how much damage has happened until later in his life anyway. Yep. So I don't know if there's enough evidence that you could go in and be like, yeah, you have to retire.
Right.
Because, I mean, as it sits today,
he's probably fine.
Sure everything tests fine.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that's the problem. We've only seen the long term, but the short term, he'll probably be fine. And then, like I said, 20 years from now, all of a sudden, won't be able to walk and something crazy. And then we're like, oh.
Yeah, well, I mean, it ties right into one of the things I was going to touch on is, Brett Favre coming out yesterday and saying he has Parkinson's.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, some of that can be sped along by hits. And, of course, when you think back to when Favre played, none of these rules that protected quarterbacks were there. And that dude took some savage hits.
Yep.
He played against guys that were trying to remove his head from his body. And, I mean, so this is something that if you're Tua, probably goes into your thought process a little bit too, because you still have a couple weeks of not being able to play anyway. So you have a guy that, in Brett Favre, who was the ultimate Iron Man. That guy never really got hurt, at least hurt enough to not be on the field. So to have something like this, you're just like, okay, well, did a lot of those hits lead to it? Now, obviously, I have no idea. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. I just, speculation over here.
Yeah. But I feel like that's what everyone's doing, though. Nobody honestly knows. But at some point, multiple hits to the head are bad. Like, that's the basic storyline, right? That we could all agree on. So, no, I get it. There's a lot of decisions to be made. A lot of decisions.
Absolutely. All right. So then the second part of this question. Biggest surprise at 0-3. Now, Tennessee is not the surprise.
Right. Right.
The Bengals also not really the surprise. They routinely start slow. Now, they've looked bad.
Yes. So, but if I had told you their schedule, take out the KC game, but if I said, hey, you're going to start the year with 2 home games against New England and Washington.
Yeah. But
I'm like, no way that you go.
Think back to the last 3 years. They find ways to lose games in the beginning of the year. Like, it's just kind of, I mean, don't get me wrong. They should have won both those games.
Right.
But over the last few years, they have found ways to lose games early in the year.
Oh, yeah.
They come on later, but early, I would have thought they would have at least had one win.
Right.
But 0-3 is it's not the most surprising thing. The Jags, on the other hand, it's not just that they're 0-3. It's the way that they became 0-3. Like, they are losing spectacularly.
Yeah.
I mean, this last game, it's like they'd never played football before.
Yes. You would have thought it was preseason, but the Bills decided to play their starters and the Jags decided to play their backups on prime time. Like, you had an extra day to prepare for this. You know what I mean? Like,
it was like the Bills played their starters and the Jags played
me and you,
the bottom 22 of a 96-man roster.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was.
Hey, you, third row. Come on.
For real. Yeah. The Jags were like the old Europe League, and then the Bills were all Madden, is what this thing looked like. Like, it was wild that it was so bad. Yeah. And, so for the biggest surprise at 0-3, it has to just be the way that the Jags are playing. Yeah. I was hoping to see Travis jump in here.
He has not, dude. So I've been interacting with him a lot the past couple of days. Like, he's just, there's like no bright spots. You know what I mean? It's like when you're going through it, there's not like, well, at least this was good. So to contrast, I've been listening to Titans podcast. You know me, right? Every time somebody loses, I go listen to their podcast. Yeah. I've been listening to the Titans podcast, and it's like, you know what? Their wide receivers have actually been playing well. JC Latham, which was, great for me, has been playing well on the line. He's like, the whole rest of the line has been trash, but you go look at his grades and his pass protection, it's been good. So at least there's like some positive in there. And then, of course, there's Will Levis.
Especially for them. Yeah. Well, I mean, Will Levis is a problem, but especially for them, right? Because they do actually have a decent defense.
Right.
The problem with them is they don't have a great pass rush. But like, the rest of the defense is actually pretty solid.
Right.
Overall, I think their ranking is actually pretty high. Yeah.
But with Jags,
there's nothing.
There's like, and then I know we're only talking about their 0-3, but you go back to last year when you go from like leading the division to missing the playoffs altogether on an unprecedented run, and you're paying your quarterback all that money, and then you start off 0-3. It's like, it's just a snowball of terribleness, and there doesn't seem to be like an immediate fix. Like, well, okay, what do you going in this draft? You get a high pick. Well, you're not drafting another quarterback, so is there what? I mean, you're almost at a position where you need to tank and then trade that number 1 pick away to get like a whole bunch of other stuff and try and fix like everything. It's just bad. So
yeah, I don't know. Like, when you watch them play, to your point, I don't see where even adding 3 or 4 guys makes this team better. Like, there's so many holes in this team that it just doesn't make sense. So Let's see. We have 4 quarterbacks combined for $942 million that currently have a 2-8 record.
And
that
what
is Cousins, Burrow, Lawrence, and Tua.
Wow. I was gonna say depending on which group you pick and not many playoff wins. Burrow at least brings the bar up because he made a Super Bowl. But
I mean, they're 2-8 right now.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was trying to figure out which group you were gonna pick because it was gonna be just depending on which way you went. But yeah, this is
this is just contract.
Yeah.
Contract.
This is so
we're talking
one of our friends JB was talking about this last year. I said the problem now is you're not paying for like past results, you're paying for future expectations and what did the last guy make? That's what you're paying for with all these guys. And now you're seeing, and now to your earlier point, you're tying up your salary caps. You're going to be paying for this for a while for each of these guys. How do you fix the rest of the team when they're playing badly? And Burrow's not even, he had one good game last night. Just his defense decided to take the whole night off. So now
I mean, that's the problem with the Bengals is they don't have a defense.
Right.
So that is something that you can say with the Bengals, with the Jags, and the Dolphins, right? Like their offenses have weapons. I mean, I don't know what the Jags are doing, but if we use the Bengals and the Dolphins, they have weapons.
You've given up so hard on them. They just got Trevor Lawrence, and that's it.
I mean, I was never a Lawrence fan anyway, but I mean, the team just looks so bad. You're just like, man, I guess before we get to that, so if you're in the Jags film room, do you even watch that film?
No.
Do you just throw that stuff in the trash and hope something else happens?
If you try to watch and break down all the bad plays, you're going to be there until the next game. Like you'll never have a chance to talk about the next game. To me, there's no positive. Can I just say, and I do like Travis, man. He seems like a really good guy.
No, Travis great. Yeah. Travis great.
When he went after me about the Calvin Ridley thing, and now Calvin Ridley's gone, and they're just really taking. Although it doesn't help that Calvin Ridley's gone to another team that's on this list, so she's not making my point at all. But he's at least played well for Tennessee. He's not the problem with the Titans. But
that's because D-Hop doesn't care and isn't trying at all.
Yeah,
like you watch him run routes, and it's the most un-D-Hop route running ever. He's just like, oh yeah, all right.
Well, it's a curious, like it's weird to have them all on that team anyway. That's and then we haven't even got into the Will Levis part. If you're unhappy with Trevor Lawrence, try the Will Levis experience. That's their podcast yells at him every week. But yeah, I don't know about the Jags, man. I don't even know where you're going from here. Like what is your thing? It's like you said, if you picked 4 guys and the next thing, are you plugging 4 different holes? Or what are you doing? I don't.
Yeah,
you would almost think they were a rebuilding team, except middle of last year, we thought they were playoff bound. So I don't know what's going on.
Well, especially as well as they started the season.
Yeah.
Because they did exactly the opposite of what the Bengals did, right? The Bengals didn't really do anything to start and then came on and looked good. And the Jags were like, they started out lights out. You're just like, oh, okay, here we go. And then they were just like, week 8, you're just like, I'm bored. And like, stop playing football. It was weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they lose every game from that point to miss the playoffs. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, all things being equal, the Eagles did something very similar.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, they're 10-1, and then they sneak into the playoffs and immediately get spanked, obviously. Yeah. But then you come into this season, they're not exactly playing awesome.
No.
I mean, if they would have lost that game against the Saints, like if they didn't just sneak that out at the end, all of a sudden, their coach has some real questions on, if people start calling for his head.
Yeah. Yep. But can I also say, like, we got to call out our own, like, Jalen Hurts hasn't been good for them either, though. Like,
no, exactly. That's
you can't make the comments that you did at the beginning of this year about Kelsey and like, oh, now it's my time to shine, basically. I've been held back. And all it seemed like he was holding you back was from turnovers, because now it's every game. You just can't And we love Jalen. Half the Alabama fans be mad at me for calling him out, but you have to call out play that's not good. If it's not good, it's not good.
Yeah.
And their team, like, if the offense plays well, the defense isn't going to play well. And if the defense plays well, the offense is going to play well. It's like they go to 2 different practice sessions every week. I don't get what's happening there. And you can't just say, yeah, well, AJ Brown, okay, but they have other weapons. They have plenty of other weapons.
Yeah,
So,
it was pretty crazy to see how ineffective the tush push is without Kelsey.
Yeah.
I mean, he obviously was the dude that made that happen. And it was funny because when he was retiring, the heir apparent, right, that he basically helped select was on the line anyway. So he takes over at center and you're just like, oh, okay, like this should just be an extension of what was already happening because he's familiar with the program and everything that goes into it. And it's like, yeah, no, Kelsey's what made that fly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's just a total, you don't do it anywhere else or anywhere. And being the center position, like, no, I can totally get that. So, no. I see that wouldn't be the easiest transition. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad Mr. Hughes is watching because he's going to hate this comment. But, man, if Saquon Barkley isn't on that team, they might be 0-3. You might be putting them on this list.
Oh, no question. Absolutely. Especially with the play calling the way it's been. Like, why are you going for it on every single 4th down? I mean, they've given up so many just easy point opportunities. If it's 4th and 1, like I get it, right? But if it's 4th and 4 and you don't get the first one, maybe don't do 3 more 4th and 4s that you also don't get, all 3 of which were in field goal range. I mean, that's 9 points. Like that can win a game. Yeah. 9 points is some, a lot. You say you even miss one, 6 points is
still a lot. Yeah. It changed the whole complexion of those next ones. Because now you're like, well, only down 3. Well, I can go for, versus, oh, well, I'm down 6. We got to go score. Like everything changes from that point if you just take the points. So what people do is in a vacuum, they're like, oh, for this one play, analytics says this. Yeah, but analytics messed you up here and then they messed you up later versus had you just did take the points here, you wouldn't have to worry about it there. So,
well, and I mean, analytics is fine over the course of a year, but there's a lot of momentum that happens in games.
Yeah.
Right. So as much as analytics is a good thing to look at on its face, right, you also have to read how the game is going.
Right.
Right. It's just like, okay, this defense is shutting us down. And although the analytics say, hey, we should go bang this thing out, they've had our number all day. So let's just take the points, call it a win.
Right.
And I mean, now they win the game anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I mean, they very easily could have lost that game, and those 6+ points would have been huge.
Well, I agree.
Thoughts on Jaden Daniels? I mean, he looked good. Yeah. I mean, neither one of those teams are great. So
yeah, he looked good against the worst defense that he's played so far. The Giants game was troubling. They won, but they didn't score. But I mean, he's got like one offensive weapon, wide receiver, Terry McLaurin, good running back. But that team is still being filled out. I think the wide receiver room probably still needs to be filled out a little bit before And I don't think, the expectations for him aren't great this year. I think the best case scenario for Washington is, hey, you develop, let's move you along, let's lose enough games to get a high draft pick still. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think he's done well to start the year, but we love Jake. I saw him a lot at LSU. He scared the crap out of us when we were playing against him. But I think the expectation level is low for him this year. I think have a good year, maybe challenge for offensive rookie of the year, whatever, and give us a good, hey, play well enough that you look good, but don't play well enough to win us some games because we still want a good draft pick. It'd be nice to get you like a number 2 wide receiver out there too as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this team is a work in progress. I like what he's been able to do. I like the progression that he's shown so far. He's not going to have a great season. You're talking about an entirely new roster. You're talking a whole new coaching staff, a whole new ownership group. I mean, that's so much change. And then you're talking a rookie quarterback. Like that, none of that says, hey, let's go light it up. Right? Like, I mean, you're going to have some games that they're probably going to surprise some people. Whether they're looking past them or, things just click that night, whatever. I actually think Jaden Daniels probably would have been a better pick for the Bears than Caleb was, but just for the way that they call the offense.
Right.
But, they're not going to be, by the end of the season, they're not going to be contenders, right? Like that's a 7-win team probably, at best.
Yeah.
And which is fine.
And that's what I say. I think that's perfect. Hey, you get to develop, you get to start all year. You're not taking just horrific hits all the time and, just strictly running for your life, kind of like Caleb Williams is. So I think you're in a good position. So I think he'll be fine, and I think it'll help him develop. What did you think about the Bengals comments about he plays in a college offense and it's really simple?
I mean, it's so ridiculous because every system has a lot of college to it at this point.
Right.
So I've never got why people want to run their mouth before a game.
Yes.
Like, it just doesn't make sense. The last thing you need to do is give them bullet board material and have them a little bit more up for the game, right? Like, as a player, you are always looking for something to give you that edge for the day, right? Because you're as prepared as you can be. And so you can only get as up as you can. But that's why you'd always have guys like Brady looking for any just slight thing to make him feel like he was being slighted, right?
Michael Jordan, that was his thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like
you said you didn't like my shoes? Yeah.
Yeah, pick fights out of absolutely nothing because it helps get you more up for the game.
Right.
And, something more than you can just do on your own. And so when people do this, it's like, man, you're just trying to lose this game. I mean, but at the same time, the Bengals are also terrible. So, yeah, it's, man, I don't know. So then, based on these, fired first.
Your boy, Eberflus.
I mean, he should.
Yeah.
I don't know that he does, though.
Because he's got the built-in. I've got a rookie quarterback. We're rebuilding. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, I think he actually gets, if they play okay, not good, not even necessarily truly competitive, but if they play okay, he gets another year, right? Like, they'll gift him that because it's like, oh well, we had all this switch over, and of course we changed all the coordinators, and like there's so many things that he'll be able to point the fingers to.
Yes.
And so it's that it's that Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing at each other.
Yep.
Yeah, like that's him for the whole rest of the team. He's just like, it's all of them.
Yes.
So
I agree with that.
He probably gets to live to see another year. He shouldn't. He shouldn't have been in this year at all. But I mean, McCarthy
should have been gone last year.
Should have been. Him and Eberflus are both lame duck as far as their contracts are concerned.
I feel like Jerry Jones said we're going to go all in, then kind of looked at the finances and the roster and realized we're probably not going to win it all this year. I need to keep a scapegoat around if I'm going to pay. Like, I can't pay Dak and make him the scapegoat because I can't get rid of him. We play CeeDee Lamb, can't make him the scapegoat. And I only say this because I'm still bitter about how he did Amari Cooper. And after they had a bad year, made him the scapegoat. And now, by the way, one of your biggest needs has been a good number 2 wide receiver, but that's a whole nother category to go down. So it's almost like he kept Mike McCarthy around knowing it would be a bad season, and now he's got a scapegoat again. So I feel like McCarthy is done. I don't think Peterson survives. I think Stefanski survives simply because Deshaun Watson is terrible and management has tied him to that. And I feel like he'll always go, I didn't want Watson. You guys did this. And
that's true, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
so and he did it in a way I can't just get rid of him. So.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that's funny is as soon as Watson isn't in, they play well.
Yeah.
So it's not like the roster isn't just littered with talent. So.
Yeah. But he would be the safest, I would think, on this list. I would almost guarantee you McCarthy's gone at the end of this year. And I don't know how Peterson survives the way they're playing.
that's the thing. Like Peterson may actually be the first one that gets fired. If they somehow drop 2 more games, like if they go 0-5, like because I think they have an early bye week. And if that's the case, he could be gone after the bye week. Like they may go into the bye week, be like, yeah,
that's it for you.
It's been real. Yeah.
So going back, they lost. Okay, they beat the Panthers at the end of last year. That was one of their few wins. But otherwise, it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like 5 out of the last 6 they lost at the end of the year. Somehow beat the Texans somewhere in the middle of that too. And then you start off this year like this. So yeah, if they get to 0-5, like I just don't see it. I don't see how you keeping them around, especially the way they're losing. It's like you give away a game to the Dolphins, when they were still at full strength. You look lifeless against the Browns. I realize the Browns have a good defense, but I'm not paying, my quarterback $50 million to only look good against the bad teams, right? I mean,
exactly.
You have to look good against those teams. And then this Bills game wasn't even a game. So,
yep. Yeah, I mean, that wasn't a game after the first quarter.
So, yeah, it could get. What do they got coming up here? The Texans at the Texans.
Yep, so that's an L.
Yep. Home against the Colts, you never know. At the Bears.
I think that's their first win is against the Colts.
But they could do the Colts and then the Bears double dip. And then the Patriots, all of a sudden you get like a 3-game win streak and, everything's fixed. No, it's not.
Yeah.
So, Peterson's iffy. Like you said, Eberflus might excuse his way out of this. Stefanski, I just don't think the problems are his fault. And McCarthy's gone. Those are my picks.
Yeah, I think Stefanski is probably the only one I think survives out of this.
Yeah.
I mean, I see the path for Eberflus, but only because I wanted him gone last year. I have to assume that they're just like, oh, okay, you know what? We should probably do this. Yeah, I don't know how Peterson survives. I don't know how McCarthy survives, especially as bad as they're playing.
Yeah.
You come out of the, the game to finish, their last game last year in the playoffs against Green Bay, get absolutely just punched in the mouth. And then you look at them this year and you're just like, yeah, I mean, they're still terrible on defense.
Yes.
And they can't seem to really get anything going. So, yeah, there's really only one guy on here that I think gets another year, and only because the quarterback wasn't his call.
Right.
Right. It's like, okay, the GM really they did a bad deal bringing Watson in. Not that anybody was really that shocked about it.
Right.
But, I mean, when you have Flacco coming off the couch and outshining your starter.
Yes.
Like,
your very expensive starter.
Yes.
Who has 0 trade value. Somehow has less trade value than Russell Wilson, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
All that guaranteed money. And you see flashes once every 6-7 quarters, I guess. But
and on that note, is he even going to live to play another 7 quarters? Because the latest accuser supposedly has video.
Right.
And is supposed to be meeting with the NFL this week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, depending on how that goes, because, I mean, we've all seen how the NFL treats video, right?
Yeah.
Like it could be domestic violence, whatever. If there's no video, they're like, I don't know.
Get by with this. Yep.
But then, a Ray Rice video gets dropped and you're like, yeah, so we kind of have to kick you out of the league, man. Yeah. Like, because otherwise, until there's video of it, evidence, the NFL doesn't care, right? Like you're still bringing them money. They don't care at all.
Right.
Soon as it affects their brand, then they're like, okay, yeah, you got to go.
Yeah.
And if this video is damning,
then he's done.
Yeah. And I guess the only saving grace to the Browns in that moment is it becomes a contract voidable thing, right? Because every contract has, the
like morality clause
and verbiage in there. And I know that there was some verbiage that said, if there's any more accusers. Like we're not going to bury you for the ones we know about it, but if there's more, right? And he's like, oh, there's no more, and then there keeps like more and more keep popping out. Right. So, first off, how weird are you that you need a different massage person every time?
Right.
Like
there's so many layers to this. Yeah, I don't get that at all, guy. And if you didn't want just the massage, there's other avenues, especially if you have money, So like, I don't get why you felt this is what you had to do. You're just an idiot of the highest order. So, and then I was actually watching with my wife one of those reality selling homes shows or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And he was on there with his girlfriend. And I was like, oh, okay. Buying like some property out in California and like not cheap. I think it was like $10 million sale or something they were looking at. So,
well, I mean, that almost makes you think he's getting ready to not be playing football anymore.
Yeah. And of course, I don't know when it was taped and aired, but yeah. For sure.
That's well, I mean, it had to have been while he was still in the Browns, though, right? Because now he's been within the organization for a few years.
Yep.
But that's we're buying a house out in Cali because, my career's about to end.
But yeah, I don't know. There's so many issues there. For Stefanski, he's probably like, yeah, I would be mad if he went away. Then at least gives me a chance to find a real solution to this.
I mean, everybody has played better. Everybody's played better than Watson has in that system. I like that he's got this trivia for you. Selling Sunset.
So ask Raj why he knows the name right off though too. So hey, have you ever seen those little either like a TikTok videos or YouTube videos or whatever where it's like how guys watch their wives' shows and it'll be like first scene the guy's like whatever. Second scene, this guy's like, oh, okay. And then by the fourth scene, the guy's like, why is she doing that? Like,
right.
That is totally me. I watched every episode? No. But I'll watch enough of the episode to be like, hey, so why is she doing that? You know what I mean? Like,
right. Oh, you start out in the doorway, just kind of catching it. And then you're standing behind the couch. And it's all of a sudden you're wrapped in a blanket with some, snacks. Like, no. It's, that's fair.
That is exactly how I watch Selling Sunset, Raj. So
especially because you're talking shit going into it too. You're like, this is some soap opera dumb stuff, whatever. And then you finish where you're like, well, how come they're doing this? And
yes,
and then as soon as you do that, you're like, oh yeah. So when you do that to me during a movie because you're watching your phone the whole time, fair enough.
Yep. We just finished Below Deck last night and watched the captain get married to her longtime girlfriend. So yeah, I know way more about these shows than I should ever know. And anyone tuned in right now is like, what? I thought I was tuning into sports talk. Like what?
Yeah, well, we're talking about how Herb likes his stories.
Oh, fair enough. Raj is not going to let me forget this one anytime soon, by the way.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Well, I mean, he has a lot of free time because his team's not playing football.
Oh. See, Raj, maybe you should have been nicer to me.
Oh, man. So, I forgot where I was going after
that. Sorry, I know we ended the coaches and we've done the 3-0, the defeated teams and the undefeated teams.
Oh man. I had one more. Oh, actually, I was gonna mention how dirty the what was it? I think it was Pro Football Talk and Fox Sports doing Seattle as dirty as possible in their power rankings. So Pro Football Talk has them at 21.
Dang.
Right?
I mean,
like I feel like you're accidentally higher at 3-0. Right?
Yeah, you know. like if we were still doing Mr. U's power rankings, I'm like, you get top 10 just for your record alone, right? No matter what we think of you, you get that's the bare minimum is top 10.
And then Fox has them at 14.
Who are the other? Are they all two? Please tell me there's no losing record teams above.
Oh, no. This is what's awesome.
Oh, please no.
The Bengals are 10.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Somehow the Bills are 5.
But they've looked like the best out of
everybody, like the entire league. Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. So we're doing on this. So this is like the college football poll where half the people don't watch the games, you know, which has always been one of the problems with like the coaches poll is like some assistant fills it out. And like after the first 2 or 3 people, you're like, I didn't watch any of these games. And you're just checking boxes when you're, but at least you look at records, I would think, you know?
Right. Like that's the thing is even in the coaches poll, they look at the record at least.
Yeah.
And I mean, so yeah, no, this one's hilarious. So this week 3 power ranking for Fox. And unfortunately, I didn't have time to make this one a slide. But so number 1, they have KC.
Okay.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm fine with that. Could have been KC or the Bills. Doesn't matter. They have the Texans at number 2.
Who just lost in not close fashion on the road to another team that's undefeated.
Exactly. So then we got the Lions, which all right.
But still haven't looked great. Offense hasn't really like been clicking, you know.
Yeah. No, it hasn't looked great, but you know, whatever. Okay. 4 is San Fran.
Aren't they have a losing record though now, right?
They do. Then it's the Bills. So that already doesn't make sense.
Right.
Then you got Tampa.
Mm.
The Eagles.
Mm.
The
Wait,
Ravens.
didn't the Eagles just beat Tampa?
Yeah. They sure did.
So we don't even care about what actually happens on the field.
Oh,
right?
no. They play Tampa. They play Tampa this weekend.
Oh, there's New Orleans they just beat.
They just beat New Orleans.
Yeah, gotcha.
But barely, right? Like it was a last second, you know, whatever.
Oh, yeah. And blew a game to the Bears. So, yeah.
Then they have the Ravens, who this last game is the first game they figured out how to use Derrick Henry.
Right.
Also,
and still
losing record.
Have no idea how to close games and have a losing record. So, yeah.
And then the Saints, which just lost the nail biter. Then the Bengals.
Okay. Why?
I no clue.
Potential? Is that what we're saying?
So that was that's the 10th spot. At 11, we have Green Bay, who doesn't have their quarterback. Their record's 2-1. Weirdly, the loss was with their quarterback. So, you know, so there's that. Then the Jets, which, all right. Then the Cowboys, who have not looked good.
No.
Then the Seahawks.
Wait, and the Cowboys have a losing record now too, right?
They sure do. They are tied with the Giants in last place in their division.
Yeah, another team in their division to not win a game this past weekend.
But then you have the Seahawks at 14. I'm like, what are we smoking? Like, I mean, not that I think that the Seahawks are some juggernaut or anything like that, but I mean, I felt like wins mattered.
Yes. Yes.
And then in the Pro Football Talk one, 21st as a 3-0.
So 21st is just you threw out darts, I guess. I don't even know.
Oh, sorry, that was ESPN. That's just some hater action. Yes. And all I can figure is because Troy Aikman and Joe Buck are now at ESPN, and maybe they had a hand in those rankings because they both like full on have hate for the Seahawks. Like if you've ever watched the broadcast, they talk so much shit about the Seahawks. It's amazing. Even when they won a Super Bowl, right? 2013, they're blowing people out constantly. And every game they're like, oh, this will be the game they fall apart. And you're just like, I mean, come on, guys. Like, they have the best defense, like, you know, one of the top 3 defenses all time.
Right.
You know, and they're like, ah. So Yeah,
That's why people would hate me as an announcer, because I would be the most biased, and I wouldn't hide it. Yeah, this team's trash. Like, Herb, they're undefeated. Yeah, I've just never liked them. Like, you're supposed to be unbiased. Like, I didn't read my whole contract. Sorry. So, you'll be happy to know ESPN at least moving them up to number 4 in their latest one, in their NFL Nation Power Rankings one.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. They must have had someone else do it.
Yeah. They finally gave you Chiefs, Bills, Vikings, Seahawks. So they just went straight records.
Yeah, exactly. They just did 3-0s at the top. I mean, that's fair. Yeah. That's the easiest way to not get a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
But
it reminds me a little bit of like the year that we played USC. Alabama played USC to start the year, and we smoked them. And then I think after, I think they may have lost the next game or two, something like that. And then somewhere in there, they switched quarterbacks and they went on this win streak. And guys were actually debating, should they make the playoffs? And one of the guys in there was like, wins and losses have to matter. It's not the potential of your team now that you have that. At some point, you just have to look at the wins and losses. And that's what I think of when I think of the Bengals ranking on there versus Seahawks ranking. They're like, Joe Burrow, they played Kansas City tough. Like, we're going to rank them high because we think they could still be great.
So I agree with that. I agree with that with preseason rankings.
Right.
Because that's all on potential, right? As soon as the season starts,
that's it.
It should be results based.
Yeah. And that's what I said. These teams that catch fire at the end or do whatever, and that's more college, obviously, than pros. Pros, the wins just come out. But when they're doing these rankings, no, the wins have to matter. I don't care who you play. 3-0 is 3-0. Like no matter which of these teams you look at and whatever you do. I mean, Alabama has a our schedule hasn't been tough. We're 3-0. Guess what? I'm happy that we're 3-0. I don't care.
That's the thing is, it's like, okay, you got to play who's on your schedule.
Yes.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
And it's not like any team doesn't have the opportunity to beat you, right? Like every team in the NFL is a good team. I mean, the Jags, but
I think you'd get to the point where you were like, the Jags might quite possibly be the worst team in the league.
I actually think they might be now that Dalton got the start for the Panthers. I mean, too bad we don't have more time, because this one would be a funny conversation to go down, because the Panthers look like the most inept team possible.
Yeah.
Right. And then Dalton comes in and lights it up. So we all gave Bryce a little bit of a pass because there's nothing on this roster and the offensive line is terrible and all of that. And then all of a sudden the Red Rifle comes in and gets a win, looks like he's going to be a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, well, I mean, man, that's pretty rough for Bryce. Like,
I was trying to find the text that I sent to Raj after I said, this looks bad for Bryce. And he was like, unfortunately, I mean, as you know, obviously we're Bama fans, we're big Bryce supporters, but that's what I said. So does this make Bryce look worse? He's like, unfortunately, yes. Like, what are we supposed to say? So I don't, I love Bryce, but man, Bryce, I don't know what to tell you now.
It shows you the roster can win is the worst part. Because man, you feel bad for the kid. Yeah. But I mean, the organization is what gets this guy. Because I mean, at the end of the day, over the last 3 years, they've had 6 head coaches, entire staff turnover. They get rid of all of their main weapons. Now, obviously, Dalton was able to do without weapons, but he also was able to get wins with the Bengals when they had 0 weapons too. So whatever. Yeah. You have an owner that is just on tilt all the time. Yeah. But that does get us to the top of the hour. Herb, let everybody know where they can find you.
You see the tag there, Raj_Herb. That's on Twitter, and Herb Raj Podcast on YouTube. All our videos are there.
Right on. And of course, if you are watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. Both of our channels helps us bring our content to you. If you're watching on Roku, you're going to see a lot of me today. Wednesdays are a busy day, so we will see you on Coast to Coast here at 9 Pacific, noon Eastern. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.